WiSP Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello and welcome to the WiSP Sports Desk, our weekly news program here with me, Chris Stafford, and Nancy Gillen, who's over in the States. So what am I talking about? You're not over in the States. I'm in the States. You're in England. This virus is going crazy. It's affecting our brain cells, Nancy.
Yeah, it's a weird situation, isn't it? It seems to be kind of getting worse every day, really.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I should say, this is season 2, episode 10, if you're just joining us. Yeah, we're well down the road here with our weekly shows, and we're going to mix it up a little bit this week because, yes, we're going to talk about coronavirus, but I've also got a couple of interviews to drop in. I talked to Shannon Miller, who's the ice hockey coach, famously won that $4 million claim sexual discrimination against the University of Minnesota Duluth last year. And she has another case that she's contesting as well with other coaches. And of course, she is no better person to have an opinion on the sexual discrimination statements that were made, discriminatory statements, I should say, from US soccer last week. And we talked about that on the show, Nancy. So I thought it would be interesting to hear what Shannon has to say. So we're going to drop that in a little bit later on in the program. And we're also going to hear from Helena Hlas, who is a Canadian Czechoslovakian rower. She now lives in Lucerne in Switzerland, and she's just started a brand new directory, online directory, a resource for athletes and coaches, Rentlete. So we're going to hear about that later on in the program. But we have to lead with coronavirus, as you say, Nancy. It's everywhere. It's affecting athletes. It's affecting governing bodies of sports, cancelling events absolutely all over the globe. It has a major impact, and I think we start at the top because I think what's on most people's minds now, Nancy, is whether the Tokyo Olympics is going to be cancelled, postponed, and how the IOC are going to deal with that. There's news coming out of that almost by the hour, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and the IOC are currently having telephone conference calls with kind of various parties. So yesterday they had one with all the international federations. Today I think they're talking to the National Olympic Committee. So there's, they're kind of in constant dialogue at the moment. So there's quite a lot of news stories coming out of that. But I think probably the main thing, is the pressure that's starting to come out from athletes. And also, there was a quote from the Spanish National Olympic Committee president where he's also asked, he's kind of just said, none of my athletes can train, so maybe the games should be postponed. So there's a lot of pressure on the IOC to make a decision, and their current stance is that they're not going to be rushed into a decision. They're not going to kind of do anything drastically. So I mean, I don't know if the pressure will only increase. So I don't know if they will have to make a decision kind of soon, but I am still kind of expecting maybe this time next month to find out what's going on with it.
Now, I've heard before, and I don't know if this has been updated, but that they would have to cancel by May, or is it the beginning of May, realistically? I mean, I'm sure the further out they do this, the better if they do make a decision to cancel or postpone.
Yeah, I think, I think it was Richard Pound, he's an IOC member, who said May. I think some of the IOC members have kind of distanced themselves from those comments, but I still think that is probably the very latest you can leave it. But it's kind of, most people that will be listening will be, probably in a country where coronavirus is causing some quite drastic measures. So I think it's kind of got a lot more realistic and drastic since when Richard Pound made those comments about making a decision in May. So I don't know, I think it's going to have to be earlier than that now. The kind of main issue is the fact that athletes, if they're kind of in a lockdown, they can't train, there's no qualifiers. It's how athletes are preparing for it. So even if we get to July and this virus has calmed down and people can kind of travel freely again, the athletes just won't be prepared for it, which I think is the main problem at the moment.
Yeah, that is an enormous problem, and it doesn't matter what sport they're in either. And you mentioned there the qualifications. I believe any qualification changes will be announced at the beginning of April, but the implications to that are huge because teams have budgeted for training overseas, to sending their teams to qualify. There's world championships in some sports. There are so many steps to final steps towards team selection. There's very few sports and countries where they've actually named for certain the individual athletes. No teams have been announced, but at this point, obviously, but it really is getting to the point where they have to pull the plug if they're going to, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, I think a month is maybe the right timeline. But yeah, it's moving at such a speed that I don't think it will be after that, and it could potentially be sooner. Yeah, I mean, it's just the scale of it, isn't it? It's kind of all the invested parties and the sponsorship, and it is a really kind of, it's a lot harder to cancel than a lot of other events. So I can see why there's kind of the dragging of feet about it. But I think if there's even the tiniest bit of fear that an athlete could have their health affected by competing, then I think it probably will be postponed or cancelled. I don't know. I mean, currently now it's almost impossible to see it going ahead. But then in 2 or 3 weeks' time, the situation could be completely different. Like this, it's just been completely unexpected the way everything's happened. So, yeah, it's just impossible to say, I suppose.
Yeah, because we obviously haven't peaked yet, and there's no way of us knowing how far we are in different countries too. And with sport, It has such a global impact, crosses boundaries everywhere. So I think we've got to get to the point where globally we're in a much more secure place and we know that it's peaked, enough, not just peaked, but that it's way down the other side of the slope. We have no way of knowing at this point when that's going to happen, obviously. But I think it's, as you said, the IOC making that decision has so many different moving parts to it, not least of all the rights, the sponsorship, the incredible monetary impact, the economic impact to the Games and to Tokyo as the host nation. Do you think it's realistic to postpone it, push it back for 2 months, 3 months? And because that again, that would allow qualifications to fit in, they'll be able to schedule those. But it will also have a knock-on effect for other events that we're going to come after.
Yeah, I think if it is postponed, they'll put it back to 2021. I don't know if it's possible to do it by 2 or 3 months, just because, yeah, like you said, I suppose there's the rest of the sporting calendar. I'm not sure. I think, and if you look at the people that have all the money in it, it is kind of broadcasting companies like NBC. If they have any say in it, I think they would rather it be in the summer of 2021, because obviously I imagine they've got a lot of sporting events happening in October or like that kind of time that they also have a lot of investment in, which they'd also kind of it'd be a negative impact on them if those other events were cancelled to make way for the Olympics. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the most likely thing is that it goes back to 2021. Like, I'm not sure if they would put it back 2 or 3 months. I suppose also because they aren't sure whether coronavirus might still be an issue in September and October as well.
Yes, it's that unknown, isn't it? And if we push it onto 2021, then of course that's going to have a domino effect on the major sporting events on the calendar, like Worlds and Europeans and Pan Ams, that have that cycle in between the Olympic Games. So it has a huge knock-on effect. Of course, it has been cancelled before, back in wartime, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility, but it has enormous implications now today, because there's that much more at stake, much more involved in terms of globally, more countries participating, and of course more dollars attached to the Olympic Games and the Olympic movement. So we'll keep you up to date every week with the news as we have it. And you'll find links in the show notes to some stories on Inside the Games, where Nancy and her colleagues there are keeping up with it day to day. But you said there was a meeting taking place today. Nancy, with the NOCs, the National Olympic Committees, and the International Olympic Committee?
Yeah. So yeah, we haven't really heard anything from that, but they're just holding a kind of a series of meetings, and this is with so international federations, like representatives from each sport was yesterday, and they didn't really say anything new. They just kind of laid out how they're going to do qualifications, if in terms of kind of they might have to go from rank for world rankings or previous performances or so on. But the main thing that came out of it was just that they're not going to make a drastic decision. So I kind of assume the same kind of thing is going to come out of this meeting today.
And if anyone's confused with all these acronyms, NOC, IOC, NFs, IFs, and NGBs, the pyramid starts with the national governing bodies at the base, and then that filters through to the national federations for each sport, and then up to the international federations for those sports, which feed into the national Olympic committees for each country, and they then feed into the International Olympic Committee. So that's the pyramid. It is very confusing if you're not familiar with it, but I think most people are familiar with the IOC, and they certainly will be as we get towards the Olympic Games, whether we have one or not, but we'll keep you informed here on our WiSP Sports Desk every week. Now, you mentioned there that other sporting events, obviously, it depends on the scale of them. They're not as huge as any of the Olympic Games. Nothing is now over here. The Kentucky Derby, which traditionally runs on the first Saturday of May, that's been pushed all the way to September. So now that's a huge sporting event here, but it is one race meeting. So that's somewhat easier just to, reschedule it to the fall. The Kentucky 3-day event, which is the equivalent over here to the badminton horse trials, they're both 5-star events. And in my world of eventing, this is it. Up until this year, we only had one 5-star event in this country. In the fall, we're going to have the second for the first time. Maryland have been granted a 5-star event in Maryland, which is really good news. That's just down the road from me. But that's so the Kentucky event's been cancelled. Hopefully by October, we'll be able to host our other 5-star event. But in terms of coming back to the qualifications and selection trials for the Olympics, Nancy, the Kentucky 3-day event over here, it is a selection trial for the Olympic Games. So it's one thing for athletes to have to reschedule their or rework their training, but it's very hard when you've got a horse fit or getting a horse fit for a race or an event or whatever it may be. You can't suddenly turn them off. When you're getting them to peak fitness, you start your fitness weeks, months out with the 3-day eventing. So that's the challenge, with horses, that now we have no events, no shows, no nothing over here. So suddenly you've got all these horses getting super, super fit up for the big event, and boom, you've got to turn them off or, just let them down gradually. And then how much do you let them down? Because you don't know when it's going to come back up again and when they can get started. So there's a ramp down and there's another ramp up.
Yeah, I suppose that is it. It's just the unknown, isn't it? It's if there was kind of any knowledge of what it's going to be like in the future, they could kind of prepare for it. But like you said, they don't know whether or not, are the horses going to have to be fit or not? No one knows, really.
No. And they don't get the memo that we do.
No.
Right. Well, we'll obviously keep you appraised every week with what's happening out there in the sports world and to the athletes. And I'm hoping to talk to some athletes about the impact this is having on them. And we'll be able to bring you those interviews next week on the Sports Desk here. Now, I did talk to Helena Hlas yesterday. She's a Canadian Czechoslovakian rower turned coach. She lives in Lucerne and rows on the Lake of Lucerne. What better place to do your rowing, hey, Nancy? At the Lake.
Yeah,
Lake
that's
Lucerne.
lovely. Yeah.
But though she did say it was about 5 degrees yesterday, so she was hesitant to get in there without a wetsuit.
Yeah, that's pretty cold.
It's very cold. But she's an entrepreneur. She has just launched, and it's at the early stages because she's still padding out the website. But she's started a website called Rentlete, rentlete.com, rentlete.com. We'll have a link in our show notes for you if you want to follow this and find out what Helena's up to. She's launched the site where athletes and coaches can connect in different sports. So if you want a rowing coach in London, then you just go on to Rentlete and you pick and choose, and you can sign up with them. Now, this is very much geared towards in-person coaching, but the idea is that this could become global. She started off with the sports where she has a very strong network. I think there's about 8 sports right now, 8 or 10 even sports on the site, and where she has coaches because that's been her network. So this is a good start. It's a great start, actually. There's a good choice of coaches there. And then if you, as I say, want to sign up with them, you go and look for a coach in your area and get connected with them. It's a great idea. So I spoke to her yesterday, and I began by asking her how the coronavirus was impacting her in Lucerne.
The virus is impacting us in a few ways. Most directly, we've closed our rowing clubs, any non-essential facilities, associations, schools, all of that's closed down. But more kind of importantly or shockingly, what's been going on is that they've canceled the annual Lucerne Regatta. And what was going to happen before the Lucerne Regatta was a last chance Olympic qualifying event for the rowers. So the ones who didn't qualify last year, they had a last attempt to try to make it to the Olympic Games, and this event's been canceled now. So it's caused a bit of drama, and we're not sure what the next step will be for those athletes. So it's definitely a hit to the rowing community and the sport community here. But obviously the priority is to make sure the well-being of everyone is protected. So the measures are what they are, and it's unfortunate, but I think the sooner we take action with it, then hopefully the more we can minimize the impact of this virus.
Yes, its impact is far and wide, isn't it? And as you say, sporting events as well, worldwide. So, it's a day-by-day thing, isn't it, really? It's just, as you say, a matter of keeping safe. You've established something online. So digitally, this is a digital project for you,
Yes.
Rentlete. Now, tell us a little bit the story behind that and what you're planning to do.
Right. So Rentlete is an online marketplace for athletes to offer themselves and offer experiences to supporters or businesses in their community. So the idea for Rentlete was born out of a personal need. I had just finished my master's degree and I was training as a rower with the Czech national team. And I felt a little bit hungry, both financially hungry, wanting to earn an additional income to the funding I was getting from the government, and also just to get out and expand my network and feel like I'm giving back to the community. So I actually started signing up for like babysitting pages, English tutoring pages when I was in the Czech Republic, just trying to do some part-time work during my crazy training schedule. And I kind of realized, wait, why am I not capitalizing on my biggest skill, which is that I'm an athlete and a rower. And so I looked for a website where I could basically rent myself as an athlete and either teach beginners or coach younger athletes. And I couldn't find anything. And so I sat on the idea for quite some time, almost a year. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to be the person to make this website. So I did a lot of research, and as far as I know, Rentlete is the first of its kind, just trying to allow athletes to be their own boss, to offer their own services in exchange for an income. And it really allows you to manage your own schedule, your hourly rate. It's all really there for the athlete, but also hopefully has a positive impact on the support community. I saw a lot of my friends doing crowdfunding campaigns, companies like GoFundMe, and I just didn't feel like it was a sustainable solution for athlete funding. So I wanted to create this kind of like two-way exchange between athletes and their supporters. So yeah, I'm in still very early stages. So the prototype is there. You can check it out at rentlete.com. But I'm still looking for more athletes to help me test the product, and I have a long way to go, that's for sure. But it's exciting to have something out since the last time we talked.
So how are you selecting the sports that you have listed there, Helena? And obviously the locations are between Switzerland, where you live, and Canada.
Yes.
But the sports itself, obviously global. How did you select them?
Yeah, so at this point, I'm just going based on the network I have of athletes and whatever sport they happen to be doing. I'm totally open to all sports. I'm even trying to get some more niche sports. So in Switzerland, shooting is very popular, and sports like archery. I would love to get some of those athletes. I'm open to all kind of sports, and right now the athletes that I do have on there are the ones who've just been willing to sign up and get the ball rolling with me.
And tell us how it works then. You can go on there and you can sign up as an enthusiast or an athlete and offer your services.
Yes.
Talk us through the procedure and how to do this, and what they get, what's it going to cost?
Right. So at the moment, the website, I manage everything because it's not completely finished yet, but the way that I would like it to function is that either athletes would sign up, or enthusiasts who are their supporters would also make a profile, and they would be able to find each other based on specific search criteria that they have. So perhaps you're living in the city of Lucerne, where I am, and either one of your children wants to start rowing, or you want to start rowing, or you're looking for someone to mentor you or someone in your family. So you'll look on the page, you'll search through Lucerne, and you'll find the sport of rowing that I'm there as one of the athletes offering an experience on the beautiful lake here. And the way the cost is figured out is just each athlete can name their own price. So you'll have athletes who are at kind of more advanced stages of their career, who have a little bit more, I hate to say value to their time, but their time is more expensive. And their rate might be a little bit higher than some of the athletes who are more up and coming. So each athlete names their own price, and the customer or the enthusiast will make their selection based on whichever criteria they have, or whatever sport they want to engage with, or whatever athlete they maybe specifically want to support.
And they can go and schedule the time with you right there on the website.
Yes, exactly.
And so when they schedule, it doesn't matter where they are in the world. This is going to be remote coaching, or it could be in person.
Yeah, the remote coaching gets a little bit more complicated in terms of how do you actually manage the tangible aspect of coaching. So at the moment, we're focusing on in-person experiences. But for some customer like a business, we'd like to offer the athlete's brand. So perhaps you're a business who wants to have an athlete endorse your product. So you could look onto the page and find an athlete that would fit that kind of brand profile that you would have as well. But for the experiences there, at the moment, we're focusing on in-person physical offers. Although right now with the corona epidemic, it's taking a bit of a standstill, but no worries, we'll get back once things pass over.
Yeah, I can imagine this is bad timing, really.
Yes.
Well, for a lot of people, trying to get the business going. But since you can do a lot more with the website, obviously getting athletes signed up, and people can sign up and get to know more about it. So insurance wise, then I'm just playing devil's advocate here, Helena. Once the enthusiast, as you call them, signs up with the athlete, then they take on that responsibility and insurance implications and booking. It becomes an individual arrangement. Then it doesn't go through you.
Yes, I mean, similar to a lot of the other platforms, you see, we, for legal reasons, try to stay outside of the contract as much as possible. We really are just a facilitator of the connecting. But in Switzerland, for example, everyone has mandatory third-party insurance. And when we do start developing more of the sign-up pages and more of the back-end stuff, we do want to have a procedure where we make sure that athletes are insured, just so things are properly taken care of. But that's definitely been a concern that we have had to make sure we can cover. Yeah.
And so when people register as an enthusiast, they have to leave their email address there and sign up. Then what happens?
Yeah, so at the moment, just because you cannot physically log into the page yet because it's in its early stages, it all goes through me, who can organize your experience with a specific athlete who you're interested in. So right now I'm kind of working as an agent for the athletes, but the idea is for the website to be able to handle that eventually. But we're just not there yet in terms of, the development of the page itself. But yeah.
But this could be huge then. I mean, I know you've started in Switzerland and Canada, obviously, but potentially global.
Yeah. That's the vision for sure. I think we're focusing one step at a time. Originally, I was only going to do Switzerland, but I found the concept was much more positively accepted in Canada, or a bit more intuitive. And I also have a wider network there. So I added some Canadian athletes, but I would definitely see this going worldwide. I think the closest thing to competition right now is, I think maybe a few months ago, Airbnb announced that they would be offering Olympic experiences. So right now, Airbnb offers a variety of experiences, but I think the goal of Airbnb in that case is really to get tied to the Olympic brand, because for them, it's really valuable to be kind of the go-to accommodation for people when they're going to go watch the Olympics. So I feel like that's a little bit more the target there, whereas we really want to create a solution for the athletes who want more income, who want to get out into their community and expand their network. And, also I found building a network outside of your sport and having a network to go to after your sports career, people who can potentially give you connections for jobs or help you in some way there, to be really important. And it's also a big part of the vision for this, because I think you get so trapped in your world as an athlete, and you rarely get to engage with this other population of the working class. So that was also a bit of the goal there that I hope we can target.
Yeah, well, it's a tremendous idea, and hopefully it will fly. And when you come out of better times here globally with this pandemic, then you really will be able to push the button on this. It's a great idea, Helena. Well done you for coming up with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see how far it can go, and hopefully it can really, impact the future of sustainable sport, that athletes who don't have the best funding or don't have the top sponsors are able to fuel their dreams for that much longer because of it.
Super. Well, keep us posted here, won't you? And come on the show from time to time and tell us how it's going.
Yeah, I'd love to. And if there are any listeners, athletes who would like to make a profile, whether it be to offer experiences or to offer themselves as a brand, I'd love for them to get in touch. They can check out the contact form on the page itself at rentlete.com, or email me at helena@rentlete.com as well. So,
and we will have a link to that page on the show
Perfect.
notes as well. So yeah, people will be able to find it by going to the show's notes at wisports.com. Well done again, Helena. Good to catch up with you, and do keep us posted.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Well, again, we'll have a link in the show notes to that website so you can check out what Helena is doing, and we'll keep you posted here because she has now become an affiliate partner. So welcome to our partner program, Helena. And we have a lot more affiliate partners. They're all on the website at wisports.com. And I think in other news, which we seem to be dominated by coronavirus, I should just mention before we move on in other news, that the Clip Around the World Yacht Race, that's another one that's been postponed. We talk about timing. They've actually postponed it for 10 months, and their crew is isolated on an island in the Philippines, which
Really?
if you've got to be isolated.
Yeah, I suppose it's not a bad place to be isolated.
That's not too bad.
Working the tan.
That wasn't in the plan. They were due to go to Seattle across the Pacific. Well, that, of course, Seattle in Washington State on the west coast of the US has been a really bad hub for the coronavirus. They've had a lot of cases reported and fatalities. That's been one of the worst states actually here, if not the worst in the US, as far as I can tell. So that's been halted and actually pushed all the way to next year, 10 months away now. They've got, I think, 2 more legs to go on that Clip Around the World race. So I feel for them having to cancel the race, but, you know, if you've got to be stranded, then on an island in the Philippines could be worse.
Yeah, it'd be a good story as well when this is all over. Like, most people probably get isolated somewhere boring and they can say they got stranded in the Philippines.
Yeah, I can see some shows, some films coming out of this at the end of the day, which we talked about before we came on air. There's a lot of stories that are going to be told because of this. Definitely. And I think you've got a story, a nice feel-good story from our friendly feminist in tennis, Andy Murray.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to find a story that's a bit happier rather than just events being cancelled, because it's kind of a bit depressing at the moment. But it's about Andy Murray. He's set up a sports agency kind of company. So he's taken on athletes to represent, and the Telegraph, who we've talked about before, because they have a women's sports section, and it's really, really good. You know, it kind of focuses on stories that haven't been told before. So it's kind of an interview with Andy Murray and Caroline Weir, who she's plays for Scotland. So she's in the Scottish national team. So she was at the Women's World Cup last year in France, if anyone watched that. And she's a really, really good footballer. She plays for Man City in the WSL over here. So one of the best women's football teams in the country, also kind of in the world as well. And it's just a really nice story, kind of about why Murray decided to pick her as one of his athletes that his agency represents, and it's kind of a lot about how much Murray stands up for women in sport. He did another kind of editorial piece for, I think it was for the IOC, and it was published in The Guardian here, about why we need more female coaches in tennis and sport as a whole. And he kind of just talked a lot about his mum, of Judy Murray, like being quite a strong figure in his life, and she was a tennis coach. And it's just a really, really nice interview if people want to read it for a bit of feel-good factor and, you know, kind of a positive women's sports story as well.
Yeah, it's a lovely story, and we all need some feel-good stories right now. Well, if you also want to hear from some of the soccer players, the US soccer players, I know they're doing more on social media. I was just watching Carly Lloyd, who is twiddling her fingers. She's actually back in training. She took a bit of a break after the She Believe Cup. And then now, of course, she's in isolation, but she is back in training. She started running again. But yeah, they are socially isolated like the rest of us, and they're using social media to connect with their fans and followers. So check those out. As I said, we are hoping to connect with some athletes next week here on the show to share their stories of how they're coping during this coronavirus isolation. Now, last week, we talked mostly about soccer because we were in disgust at the statements that came out of US soccer towards their team. And the president of the US soccer, Carlos Corona, he actually resigned amidst that backlash of criticism that the statement that the federation made last week against the girls. It was very derogatory. I know it appalled all of us, but I don't know, it was a move too late, but I think it was inevitable he had to resign. But anyway, I did follow up with Coach Shannon Miller, who's an ice hockey coach over here, who famously won her claim against the University of Minnesota Duluth last year for sexual discrimination. That claim was worth $4 million. It was a record amount. But she really had to go through the mill, and she won her case, obviously, and against sexual discrimination. And she has another case that she is contesting right now with some other coaches. But I thought no better person knows what that feels like to suffer from sexual discrimination. So I got her opinion of the statement from the US soccer last week. Shannon, thank you for joining me. And I know if there's anybody in the world that understands what sexual discrimination is about, it's you. Tell us what your reaction was when you saw the statements that were coming out from the US Soccer Federation.
You know, I was just so disappointed in the U.S. Soccer Federation. It's hard to believe that we're in 2020 and this dark age behavior continues to persist, and they're public about it. I mean, they make public statements just announcing that they still live in the dark ages, that they don't respect women, they don't believe in equal pay, they don't believe in equality, and it's blatant sex discrimination, and we cannot stand for it, and we're not.
But in terms of, you know, this being in the dark ages, and this really taking us back, talk about steps backwards, when you see the language that they're using here, it's so disrespectful, it's so patronizing, it really is unconscionable. And I wonder why, especially in today's climate, Shannon, they think they can get away with this rhetoric even.
Oh, Chris, it's remarkable. It's stunning. You know, U.S. Soccer Organization has said that the women are less skilled, their work is less demanding, that the men's job, they have more responsibility. This is exactly what I faced working at the University of Minnesota Duluth. This is one of the reasons that I did sue for sex discrimination. I had a federal trial. As you know, I won. And the defense that the university used was, oh, the men's coach is paid more because he has more responsibility. So I won a lot more than the men's coach, but they said, oh, well, the reason the men's coach is being paid more is because he has more responsibility. Well, that's ludicrous. We all know that the men have more staff, more resources, and we're actually doing the exact same job. So the women are working a lot harder, and it is more difficult to win. And so when U.S. Soccer sits there and says the men's players have more responsibility, therefore they're paid more money, it's insanity. Anybody with two brain cells to rub together that isn't sexist understands that. And it's important for men and women to speak out against this, to stand up, to speak out, and to create change, because these people not only behave that way, they publicly state it and think that they're untouchable, and they're not.
And I noticed even Coca-Cola, one of their sponsors, has stepped up and said, you know, this is totally unacceptable. This is really what needs to happen, isn't it? The sponsors, who have a moral compass and who are, standing up for women's rights, they need to all step forward and show really what's at stake here with that kind of language and attitude. And that kind of, well, it is about the attitude. It is about the disrespect, basically, and the reasons why they're stating that they're not going to pay women equally. And it is extraordinary, because I've talked about this with my colleagues here, that when you think about women's soccer, U.S. women's soccer, and I know you follow sports, Shannon, it's a team that's been so successful, so well regarded and well respected all over the world, except by their own federation, their own employers.
Yes, exactly. And I feel for them, because I just went through it. And so I'm following their case closely, and of course I'm supporting them. But the U.S. Soccer Federation, make no mistake, they are in violation of the Equal Pay Act. and sponsors and anyone that is standing and supporting the U.S. Soccer Federation, it's going to say a lot about you as people and your organization if you do not speak up and stand up and support the women, because the U.S. Soccer Federation is in violation of the Equal Pay Act. And so we've come to a point in our society where we're sliding backwards, and it's slippery and it's happening quickly. I feel like we're going back into the dark ages instead of progressing forward. And it's going to take all of us, men and women, to stand up, to speak out. And it is going to say a lot about us, those that do and those that don't. And silence is not good here. We all need to contribute to making change. And sponsors are key, Chris. You brought that up. They're huge. They control the purse strings. And so if the sponsors start putting pressure on the U.S. Soccer Federation, the U.S. Soccer Federation will do the right thing. Sadly, that's what it might take, is pressure from outside money and from other men outside of the organization. But eventually they will have to give in and they will have to do the right thing. And then hopefully we can move forward.
Yeah, but if you think about U.S. women's soccer team, they've got some major hitters there amongst their sponsorship. They've got Visa, they've got Volkswagen, and we mentioned Coca-Cola. These are big hitters, and I would hope they all have the same moral compass in terms of equality for women and making a stand against this sexual discrimination and inequality. So imagine if they all stood up against this and all spoke out against the Federation. It would have a huge impact.
Oh, it absolutely was. We all know the old saying, put your money where your mouth is. And it's time with the Me Too movement. Come on, we're calling everybody out of the dark, everybody out of the shadows, everybody out of the closets. It's like, everyone, you're going to get exposed. So why not get ahead of it? Why not be part of the solution instead of us having to shine a spotlight on you, sue you, and win? Because we will win when we continue to sue. These women are going to win. I won. More women are suing. More women are going to win. So why not, as a sponsor, just step out of the shadows, out of the dark ages, into the light and say, yes, we believe in equal pay. We respect women and young girls. We believe in equality. We want to be part of the solution. We want to be part of creating change. And we, as Coca-Cola or Visa or any other sponsor, we're going to step up and we're going to hold the U.S. Soccer Federation's feet to the fire. If you don't do that, you're being exposed for your lack of support for women, your lack of respect for women and girls. So just do it, and let's move forward together.
You will know the details much more than I do, Shannon. And it was like a couple of years ago when the ice hockey team, U.S. ice hockey team, women's team, they stood up, they went on strike. Look at the impact they had. Do you think that's what it's going to come to here? Do you think that's what this team needs to do?
Yeah, I hope they don't. I'm not sure when they're going to court. If the court date is relatively soon, then I hope this just goes to trial.
May 5th, I believe.
Yeah, so I knew it was soon. And so that's good. Let them go to trial. It'd be a very public trial, and U.S. Soccer Federation is going to get exposed as an organization that practices sex discrimination, just like the University of Minnesota did. And I guess that's what it takes, is for these people to be exposed. If for some reason that I can't even imagine that they would not win their case, then I think at that point maybe they do go on strike and they have conversations with Coca-Cola and Visa and all of these companies and donors, because it takes a team. As we know, it takes a village to create change. And I love what these gals are doing. I love what the U.S. women's national hockey team did. And unfortunately, we have to keep doing it, though. We've got momentum. We can't stop. We have to keep pulling together. It's going to take the next one and the next one and the next one. And eventually, hopefully, it becomes the norm. We're done with being treated as less than, all of us. All women, all girls, all sports, all corners of life. And we're coming together, and we're powerful, and we are going to create change. So get on board or get run over.
Well said, Shannon, because this has implications far beyond soccer, far beyond sport. This is a message to young girls that, that alone, when you think about it, it's telling young girls that, well, yes, you can be a professional soccer player or ice hockey player, whatever, but this is the kind of treatment you're going to get. I mean, that's what makes me so upset about this all, is the implications that go far beyond sport. And the messages that it sends to young girls and women. And hopefully we make enough noise, and I think the media certainly has to make a lot of noise about this.
Yeah, we really do rely on the media. I mean, as men and women, we do have to speak up. As sponsors, you have to speak up. But if we speak up loud enough and there's enough of us, then I hope the media will continue to carry the torch and help us fight the fight. And Chris, the one thing too, the other thing is they're being exposed for these organizations, a lot of these men, or just for being hypocrites. For example, you know, like in my situation, I was a far more winning coach than the men's coach, but he got paid more money. And so their explanation was, well, he has a greater responsibility than you. More fans come to his games than your games. Well, that's got nothing to do with Title IX and equal pay. And so now in this situation, here's the women's soccer team winning more than the men's soccer team, getting more fans than the men's soccer team, but they spin it the other way.
Yeah, sold out stadiums. What more do you want?
Exactly. So it doesn't matter how good you are as a woman, whether you win more, you fill the stands, yada, yada, yada. They just spin it and something else comes out of their mouth to support their sexist behavior. And that's what it is. And we have to call a spade, and it has to stop. So let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Shannon. Well, I know you're continuing your fight as well. It just never ends, does it?
Yeah, mine's far from over as well. The big chunk is down, but I have more to go. And Jen Bamford, Netwild, the other coaches that are also suing the University of Minnesota, they're on their journey right now, and I'm supporting them. And we all just have to have the courage to keep going. And women, reach out, lift each other up, and support each other. And men, we need you as well.
Absolutely. Well said, Shannon. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. It's always good to catch up with you. Let's just keep making a lot of noise.
Yep, always a pleasure, Chris. Thanks.
Well, Nancy, you know that the vice president of U.S. Soccer is a woman who's now stepped up in the interim.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see if they appoint her as president.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm hoping that I don't know too much about her, but I'm hoping that she hasn't been too tainted by the previous establishment. But yeah, you would hope that whoever they appoint now has kind of actually got some respect for the athletes which they're supposed to represent.
Yes, because I think even though he said that he didn't, and it was, he admitted he did not, this is Carlos, the former president, did not read that statement from the lawyers. But, well, if that isn't a dereliction of duty, I don't know what is. I mean, that's his job, isn't it? He's not going to, have his lawyers make statements on behalf of the federation without approving them. But there we are. That language was out there. And I think this is going to be ongoing. It's meant to go to the courts in May, so we'll see what happens if it does go. Because I think at the right now, if it does go to the court, then the women are getting a stronger chance in the light of those statements. That statement of winning their case if they didn't already. But that leads me to another question. Then I wonder what's happening with the courts these days. I mean, are the courts still doing their business?
Well, I know that CAS, which are the kind of the highest level of court for sport, I know they're doing everything by video link until May the 1st. So they're not actually having any kind of in-person hearing until then. So everything's kind of got to be done over, no, not Skype, but a similar kind of situation. So I don't know about courts outside of sport, but maybe, they're doing the same kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. But yeah, CAS is the Council for Arbitration of Sport, which athletes use to contest and appeal against their cases. It does a lot of other things too. But as you say, it's the highest court in the land of sport, for sure. And I also noticed that other forums, sporting forums and so on, have been cancelled or postponed. But video link is the way to go, isn't it? And there's lots of business you can do just by video linking.
Yeah, and I suppose it's quite almost lucky that, when this has happened, that people do have the ability to continue on with work and continue doing things because we do have kind of, such good technology now. And
you're self-isolating, aren't you? You're working from home.
Yeah, well, it's called social distancing here at the moment, so I can go out. Things are still open, can go out, but as soon as if I show any symptoms, it's like a temperature or a cough or anything, then self-isolating for 14 days. So yeah, that's the situation at the moment. Kind of everyone's at home and so on, but we're not quite. The rest of Europe is a bit ahead of us, so we might get there soon.
Yes, well, I've been self-isolating too, just going out for grocery shopping and for exercising. I'm still doing my walking, and I'm getting a bicycle, Nancy. Well, we privately here, before we came on air a few weeks ago, we said whoever got their bicycle first got bragging rights. So my bicycle's arriving this week. Where's yours?
It's not arriving. Yeah, I haven't ordered one yet. Though I am back at my parents' house now, so I might have a look in the garage to see if there are any bikes still knocking about. I think there's one, but I don't think it's in very good condition, so maybe I'll have a look at that and see if I can do anything with that.
There you go, resurrect it, and you can be out getting your exercise.
Yeah, out cycling. Yeah.
Do you run?
I do. I can't. Well, because I had ACL surgery. I had it 2 years ago, actually, tomorrow, and I've kind of semi got back to like full fitness and being able to use my leg fully, but still running is a bit. I'm kind of a bit like aware of it, if that makes sense. So I don't really want to kind of run quite a distance, and just kind of have to watch myself really. So I'm always a little bit conscious about the fact that my knee's a bit dodgy when I'm running. So I would rather be cycling than running for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, as you say over there, on your bike.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I'm going to continue my Pilates, my hiking, and my cycling amongst everything else here to try and keep our head above water, and self-isolating, of course, apart from grocery shopping. So I hope you're doing the same, staying safe as much as you can do anyway, looking after others, and just be careful out there and follow the regulations. I think whatever your country is advising you to do, I think it's our responsibility to follow that advice and take care of ourselves and others. Well, Nancy, we'll be back same time next week. At least we can do this digitally, so we can bring you the latest news every week here on the WiSP Sports Desk. Don't forget in the meanwhile to check us online at wispsports.com and insidethegames.biz, and follow us on social media. You can post your comments, questions, suggestions. We'd love to hear from you, hear what you think about the show, and that's at WiSP Sports and at Nancy_Gillen. And our email address for those who feel like penning us a line, which we'd love to hear from you, of course, anytime, via email at info@wispsports.com. Nancy, stay safe. I'm sure you're probably keeping busy. I mean, at least we're out of computers and we can write.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at least we can keep doing what we do, which is, I'm grateful for.
And until next week, thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.